So now we have the right image size, and we've just tweaked the quality a little bit. We now need to remove the white background that the footballer is set against. So in order to do that, I have to make sure the layer that you want to select the content in is active in the layers panel down here. Then I'm going to go to the fourth tool down, which isn't always visible. It's sometimes hidden by the quick selection tool, which it certainly is, but it ain't accurate. So I'm going to choose the magic wand tool. And then with the magic wand tool active, you should be able to see at the top in here a button called select subject. What that will allow you to do is then just click on that button and it selects whatever it finds in terms of its prediction of the subject in the photograph. And so here it's put a selection around the footballer. To be honest, we only need the selection to be accurate around where the head and the shoulders are. The rest of it, I'm not too concerned about how accurate it is. But if I then pick up my zoom tool and click and hold down the mouse and zoom in, there may well be a couple of regions that I might want to tweak. So again, I hold down the space bar to get the hand tool and pan and pull the image down in the view. And then, this portion here, if I just want to remove that part from the selection, then what I can do is I can go to the third tool down in the tools panel, click and hold down in there, and we have something called the lasso tool. Click on that. And I need to make sure the mode is set to subtract selection. So I need to take a portion of the selection away. Part of the white background is active in here. Feather set to 0, anti-alias turned on, which is all about smoothing very, very slightly. And then you might need to zoom in really, really close to this region. So notice there's a minus next to my cursor in here to remove part of a selection. With this tool, you have to click and hold down the mouse and keep it held down and then just drag. So you have to have a fairly accurate hand gesture in here to go along the edge in here. Come back round and then let go of the mouse once you reach the start point where you started. And it takes away that selection in there, like so. Again, if I hold down the space bar to pan, I might want to just click and hold down the mouse, drag over the bit that I don't want from the white background, just do a little loop selection around it in there and let go of the mouse. Hold down the space bar and just work around in here, making sure that I don't have anything in that selection that I don't want in there. Now, I've just trimmed away some of the hair in there, so that is not going to show up well against the red text in there. So we want to give this a really kind of, not a brutal haircut, but we do definitely want to just stick to the solid clumps of hair in here. And that's particularly because the image quality is very, very low. And now I'm going to change the mode to add to selection. I'm going to add this portion in here. So I'm going to click and drag around the bit that was missing just here, and then come on the inside to add it in and then let go of the mouse. And then just this portion here, click and hold down the mouse, drag around that portion and let go. And then if I spacebar to pan along here, the rest of that I'm fairly happy with. So I'll go to view, fit on screen, and then in the layers panel down here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a duplicate. So I'm going to, in this case, I'm going to hover my cursor over the layer thumbnail, click and hold down the mouse and drag that down to the bottom, and it's where my cursor is that counts, onto the new button. That creates a duplicate in this document, and I get a copy in there. I'll double click, I'll call that Steph, hit return, and then what I can do is just pull the layers panel out here so we can see it in context to the image. Once that selection's in place, what I can now do with the layer that I want to apply it to, the copied one called Steph, go down to the bottom and then click on the button that's a circle inside of a square that's called Add a Mask. And when I click on that, it hides the background. Now, the key thing here is that we've kept the original there, but if I hide the background layer, you'll notice that it has removed all the white from the layer at the top up here. So the thumbnail that's now appeared is called a layer mask. The color black conceals part of that layer. The color white reveals part of that layer. And so it now gives us the opportunity to keep in the background layer in here the original artwork and the white background, but we can now have an option to have a version of this image which is in front of the 442 text. The only thing to add to this really is a vignette. There is a vignette in the original artwork, and to do that, I'm going to go down here to my shape tools, which you can reach by tapping the U key on the keyboard, U for uniform. I'm going to choose the rounded rectangle tool. Make sure that the mode at the top is set to shape to create a shape layer. Click away from there. Make sure that the color is set to black, so I can hover over that. This is called the fill color, so the color inside of it is the fill. Make sure that is set to black in there. press the return key, make sure the stroke is set to none, which is right at the top up here, and then press the return key. And from here, then I will hover my cursor over the outer edges in here, click and hold down the mouse, keep it held down, drag out like this to draw a new layer, which is black. And at first, this looks just horrific. But what I've learned is that this new shape layer now will have the color on the inside. If you then, once you've drawn the layer, go up to the mode at the top, you can change this to subtract front shape, and it inverts it and puts the black around the outside. From here, then I can go to the radius. I can drag that around to increase it. If it doesn't change on screen, you can always go to the properties panel over here. And then you have the corner options if you want to round them a little bit more. I might need to increase that to say something. Let's go for 200 just to test this out, 200. So yeah, that's sort of nice and rounded. And then I'll move that to the side. So that field in there, all about how rounded the corners are. And depending on the size of the image, you will have to vary that amount until it just suits by eyeballing it, essentially. Now, this is too harsh, clearly. We want a soft feathered edge. So what you can do is, now with this layer drawn and active and the color on the outside, is go to this option here, which is to mask. Again, it's a circle inside of a square. This has a feather option. If I drag the feather along, eventually I'll get to a value where it softens the edge in there like so, and I get this kind of effect. And I get the softening around the outside. With that done, I can then go back to the layers panel, and if I need to, I can go to the opacity option. I can drag that down to reduce it, so we just get faint vignette around the outside like so. And it is always worthwhile changing the blend mode from normal to multiply, and that will add this dark color onto whatever the texture of the photograph is behind it. So it tends to work well for dark colors. So that's a blending mode of multiply. And with that done, then, if I wanted to, I could always then go up to the select menu at the top and up to the edit menu at the top, and then choose free transform path. And I can even just pull this out a little bit. If it's, encroaching too much on the subject, I can always pull these out to the side a little bit further and just pull that vignette back a touch as well. I can then click on the tick in the options bar. If I go back to the properties panel, again, I can always increase or decrease these values. So maybe if I type in 400 and press return, it becomes even more rounded, but you can customize that at any time. So from here now, we have 3 layers. I might even rename that and call that vignette and press return. We've got them all labeled up in here. Now I need to go to the file menu and choose save, and then go to the links folder. I'm going to keep the name in here, but this has to be a .psd, it stands for a Photoshop document. And then I'll click on save. That saves the file. And now I can go back to InDesign, and in my images layer in the layers panel, I've got the placeholder frame active. I can go to file, choose place, and then pick my image in here, which I chose as cover main 01.psd. And then I'll click on open. Click OK to that and leave all the layers visible for now. And I get this effect. And then from here, it's at this point then that I am looking at this and thinking, well, actually, do you know what? She is too far up in the image in here, so that needs tweaking. So I'm going to come back, go back to Photoshop. And in actual fact, I can hover over the image here, right click, and I can choose Edit Original. That will take me back to Adobe Photoshop, and then InDesign knows I've edited this. So from here, switch to my Move tool. Then I can unlock the background layer in here, like so. And then hover over and shift and left click on this layer just here. So both layers are now active. I can then go to Edit. I can choose Free Transform. I get options across the top up in here that I can scale with, and I can click on the link between the width and height, swipe over one of the values, and tap down to scale both layers down. That's absolutely critical because we want to be able to have the show and hide effect working. They have to be absolutely the same size. So with that, just drop down a little bit in here. I've gone to 88%, and then I am going to hover over and just drag both layers down a touch as well. And then I'll go up to the top, click on the tick, and then go to File and choose Save. I know this doesn't look right now, but when I go back to InDesign, that will update once it's finished saving, and there we go. Now I'm looking at this and thinking, yeah, it's much better. It's not completely hiding the O and the U in there, but that will give us the effect we're looking for. Now I need to go back and right-click on this, choose once more, Edit Original, and then I need to go into Layer 0, and then I need to go and just hover over, click and drag across all those transparent regions around the outside. Notice that I'm in Add to Selection mode. Drag around and select all these areas here to add them in one at a time on every edge in there. And then from here, I'm going to hide the vignette layer. Make sure that the layer 0 in there is still active, and then go to Edit and again choose Fill, Content Aware, click OK. And it fills out the background. Again, make sure I go to Select, choose Deselect. For now, I'm only going to rename that layer. I'm going to call this BKG for background in there. I'm not going to lock it because I might need to do a little bit more tweaking afterwards. But with that done, I'll go to File, then choose Save. Once that's saved, I can go back to InDesign, and then it will update on screen in there like so. So I'm happy with that. And then comes the final portion. I need to expand open the images layer. There are just two images in this document, the back and the front. I also need to unlock the text, click on that to expand it down in there, and then hover over, click away from the image, click on the text that was highlighted in blue, then collapse the text layer once that's selected, and then I need to drag the blue selection indicator and move that text into the images layer. This is the way we have to do it. So now notice that the frame around here is now red. The text and the image of the footballer is in the same parent layer called images. And then from here, what I need to do is click away, click back on the image, go to Edit, choose Copy, choose Edit, paste in place, and it puts another copy, but it's in front of the text. Now, crucially, with only that one selected, I can then go to the Object menu, go down to Object Layer Options, and then I have the choice then to show and hide these different effects. So in here, I can turn off all the layers except the Steph one in here, turn on the preview checkbox, and there it goes. We have the text then visible in the background. So the copy that I created is in exactly the same place, but we're only revealing the Steph layer in there, and I can click OK. I noticed that with the previous one, which is down here called Cover Main 2, if I hover over and click on that one, it will select the one at the back. Again, I can go to Object, Object Layer Options, and in this one, the vignette was turned off. I'll turn it back on again, and that will appear in the background like so. I can click OK, and then with that done, we've pretty much got the cover. Sometimes it'll show you a low quality preview, but again, if you press the W key, press it again, and sometimes you have to zoom in, it will just give you a little bit of an update afterwards in there. So sometimes it will show you a low quality image. After a couple of seconds, it does tend to. It's just being a bit twitchy in here, but if I go to File, choose Save, there we go. It's just updated now. So sometimes it takes a little while, but you know, in there, it's a pretty good cutout. You know, to say that the quality of the image was very, very low quality, we've achieved that effect. And that's by taking all of your artwork, sizing it correctly, have all the artwork built. I put the vignette in there. I created an extra layer that cut out the footballer, and then you create a copy of that image. And notice in here, crucially, the one that contains just the image of Steph the footballer is higher up in the layer stack than the 442 text, and the other original image is at the back. So we fill out the rest of the page with the original image in there, and that is how it's done. Just to show you, if I turn off the visibility for that top version, you have the text, and then the person's behind it. If I turn it back on again, that's revealing the version of that photo with just the footballer. And that's how you create a cutout in front of your text inside of InDesign.